Podcast Studios. This is After 9 with Scott and Kat.
Hey now!
Howdy, friends.
What's going on, Kat?
Oh, it's nice again today. Lovely. Enjoy it.
Radio Ratings Day today. Thank you to everybody who listens to our radio shows. We are on that fairly old piece of technology that is still very relevant and free in your car. We wish you would listen to the radio show, but so far we got some good numbers today, so that's great. Got a lot to talk about here, Kat. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's start with debt. Canadians, the headline is, Canadians are carrying a lot of debt. $2.4 trillion in car loans, mortgages, and credit card debt. TransUnion finds there's been an increase in delinquencies, and about 10% of Canadians are only making their minimum monthly payment on their credit cards. They also found the average car loan, now in Canada, $28,102. Average credit card debt, $4,276. They also said that when it comes to bills, many people have prioritized paying their mortgage or car loan first. The credit agency points out that missing any bill can hurt your credit score. I would like to tell TransUnion that you guys can suck a whole number of different things. People are not avoiding they're making their car payment and their mortgage payment so that they continue to have a car and a place to live. If other bills get ignored, that's just the reality if they don't have enough money coming in.
So, I mean,
nobody's intentionally not paying their hydro bill or not paying their home security monitoring.
So, yeah, these numbers that came out, obviously this reflects the time that we're in, that they seem worse, right? Then they are worse, right? Like
It's really bad.
Like year over year?
That's a lot of debt.
Yep. Year over year worse.
Yep.
We could figure this. And in a lot of cases, you're absolutely right. These are people, we see it, we hear it, people are struggling. There's also a fair amount of people, though, that don't understand how to properly work their finances out. And that's a humongous problem, and it always has been. There's people who are fucking just prolonging paying off their car and just being like, just add another few years, not realizing how much money and interest they're losing. It's incredible to me, the lack of education when it comes to finance. So that has a huge part of it, too.
I thought...
Go ahead, just say it. I think this is the place to do that.
I thought that we were introducing this to the regular curriculum. I thought a major part of high school was going to be learning how to do finances and learning how interest rates work and stuff like that. Have they not implemented it yet, or has it just not worked through the system? The amount of people that don't understand that you have to pay at least the minimum payment on your credit card every month. And the interest on a credit card is like 10 times higher than the interest on a line of credit. You know, simple things like pay off your credit card balance with a line of credit would actually save you a lot of money. You still owe the money. It's just you pay less interest on it. Simple things like that. I thought we were teaching people now.
I have every sympathy for people who are truly doing all the right things. They are working hard. They are trying their best. That is not included in what I'm saying here. But the people who use their credit card like it's free fucking money, that's on you, man. You're the one that put yourself in that kind of debt. You're making stupid choices with the cars that you choose. You're making stupid choices with where you choose to live in some cases, right? This is not for the people, the average person who's just struggling to make ends meet. And we all know the cost of everything's going up. But there's still a lot of financially stupid people out there. There really are, and there always have been. But it frustrates me because I feel like you're absolutely right. These are things that we should learn in school. It starts so young, too. Like, I recall all my friends getting OSAP thinking, this is fucking great, free money. Let's head to the bar. Like, that's the wrong mentality right off the fucking bat. Do your parents not teach you anything? Or are your parents financially fucked, too? Like, and I mean, I understand that I'm sounding harsh in a lot, but it's true. I know people who got into debt because they saw their parents have it and their parents didn't teach them shit because they didn't know shit. And again, that goes back to education on the matter, I'm sure. But financial literacy is so fucking important. And I feel like a lot of that could be solved with this. Now, again, I know the economy is different now. That's not every case. However, it still frustrates me hearing that because I think of what a waste of money. People are wasting their money so much, and it's fucking crazy to me.
Next week, the Bank of Canada is going to make an interest rate announcement that could, assuming they do the right thing, and drop interest rates. And I know that they're saying, maybe a quarter point. It needs to be at least a half point because they always say it. The economy's a lagging indicator. We cut interest rates and we don't see the results of it for a while. I don't think that the talking heads there in Ottawa realize how bad it is on the ground for the middle class. When you're seeing numbers like this, not much of it, but a decent amount of it is financial illiteracy. But there's just people who they have to make that choice. Well, I got to buy groceries, I got to pay my rent, and I got to pay my car payment. Otherwise, they're going to tow my car. So what's not getting paid? Car insurance, all the other little things. Oh, and they got to pay their cell phone bill. Otherwise, their cell phone bill is one of the first things that's going to get disconnected. We're into that. The moratorium, I believe, now is over where they can shut your hydro off. We don't allow you to do that in Ontario in the winter months because it's cold and you need hydro. But I think we're coming out of that now, and I wonder how many people are really behind on that. There's got to be companies that are making serious accommodations with customers to not shut off their shit just because people can't afford it.
No.
And I'm surprised there's not more disconnects than there actually is.
Are you hearing? You're hearing more and more, like myself, because we know a lot of people in different industries surrounding the interest rate. You're hearing as well that something's going to be dropped, slight, even if it's slight. That's what I'm hearing too from people who, I don't know, they tend to be, or they're just guessing correctly, but from people who believe that it's going to go down even ever so slightly.
The ones that I've talked to figure a 1/4 point interest rate cut next Wednesday. I don't think it's enough. I think people need more relief than that.
Yeah.
But boy, it's so frustrating, especially when you hear those debt numbers. So we're going to kind of bounce around a little bit in this episode of After 9 because I don't want to make it all downers. And we just did something that was a little down. The amount of debt that Canadians have is not a fun topic, but it is something you need to know about. So let's alternate here. Now let's do a fun one because they're convening a grand jury now. That means an indictment could be coming, which would mean an arrest warrant for Sean Diddy Combs if the grand jury indicts him. Frankly, I haven't seen anything to say they won't indict him. There was an attack caught on video.
This is, by the way, a CNN report, so we can put a lot behind this, right? Like when it comes to CNN, you feel like they probably they have their sources all in a row there.
Can I just tell you, I used to watch CNN pretty much all day, every day. And they got so hell-bent on making sure that Donald Trump doesn't get reelected or that making sure he wouldn't win the last election. They got so into it that I gave up on CNN. I don't even really consider them news. The irony is when they're not talking about politics, which is about 95% of the time, their other actual news stuff is still good. So I do trust them as a source for anything other than politics.
Okay, so CNN says federal investigators, they are preparing to bring accusers before a federal grand jury. The Justice Department is moving toward potentially seeking an indictment here. Possible witnesses have been notified. That's how they know that, is that some sources have already told them and reached out and said, I have been told I might need to testify and stick around because it's going to happen in New York City. Now, he's been named in 8 civil lawsuits since November alone. There's more elsewhere, I believe, coming. 7 directly accusing him of sexual assault. One of the 8 is Cassie. She obviously, I think, would have no problem testifying, especially in this case. Another lawsuit accuses his son of sexual assault. I don't know if you guys heard about this story. This was kind of a little more like, But what you don't realize is Sean Combs is accused of aiding and abetting for that, AKA covering up for his son over a sexual assault that apparently happened, I think it was on a yacht, if I'm not mistaken. And here's the interesting part about that. We're hearing that because she dated him in the late 90s, / I think up to the early 2000s, like 2001, I think they broke up. Maybe it was even earlier. Jennifer Lopez could be subpoenaed.
That's an interesting one because J-Lo has been lip-sealed.
Silent.
When it comes to Diddy, and we know they dated for a long time. It was back when I was first getting into radio at the end of the 90s. That was the hot couple of the day. That was the Morgan Riley and Tessa Virtue. That was the Justin and Haley. Like, they were the couple.
The Taylor and Travis, hello.
The Beyonce and Jay-Z back in the 90s.
Sure, yeah.
And then they split up and that was it. She
Yeah.
didn't talk shit about him. He didn't talk shit about her. But if anybody knows where the bodies are buried, Jennifer Lopez would have a pretty good idea.
She's got something. Like, she knows something and she chooses not to say anything. And by the way, they were friends afterwards. Like, they spoke. I don't think they were close, but I would love to know from her perspective what she saw. Now, the reason why they broke up was always a question mark as well. In the early 2000s, he was involved. Actually, it was 99 was that nightclub shooting. She was there that night. And apparently that was the start of the end for her. Like, I can't be involved with this. I want to have a good reputation. She was just starting out. She was like the hot pop star that there was. And so she doesn't want anything to do with that. So that's the reason why we thought they broke up. Is there more to it? Yeah, I'd love to know too. But she's doing her best to stay quiet about a lot of things right now. And the problem with J-Lo is she's built her career off of look at me, look who I'm dating, look what I'm doing. So don't be shocked, J-Lo, when we all turn around and go, what about that? What about you and Ben? What about you and Diddy? You can't have your cake and eat it too. So we want to know what the fuck is up.
What I want to know about J-Lo in particular is, like, Cassie was not a willing participant. It seems like Diddy was hell-bent on living that lifestyle that he wanted to live. And based on some of the shit that I'm hearing, it is gross. However, how into that was J-Lo? We know Cassie probably looked the way on a couple of different things, and eventually she had enough, and we all saw the video, which was so hard to watch, and she eventually left. J-Lo left as well, but it didn't seem like she left on bad terms. Did J-Lo know what Diddy was into and up to? Was he into it and up to it when they were dating, or did that happen after her? J-Lo's an integral witness to this, and I get that she doesn't want to testify. She does not want to testify. She's going to have to, though. They're going to subpoena her, and a grand jury's a grand jury. If they drop an indictment on Diddy, he's going to jail, and there's no way J-Lo's getting out of testifying.
And if they subpoena her, imagine all the other people that he's worked with through the years and been close to through the years. They could easily be subpoenaed as well.
Huh.
We'll see. We're on it.
Do you think J-Lo was involved in any of the shit that Diddy was involved in?
No, I think she saw shit, though, and she got out. She was smart.
Right.
I don't think she did anything nefarious, no.
What is it with Diddy? Is he a Satanist? Is he a pedophile? Is he gay? Is he... I've heard so many different stories, and I'm trying to figure out what this guy's story is. Is he like a black Jeffrey Epstein? Is he a kingpin, a CIA asset that was meant to collect incriminating evidence on people? There's so many different ways that this could go, and I'm not quite sure where it's going yet.
There's a word for it, I'm sure, but this is someone who needs to have power, who wants to have power and feel power over others and have the ability to control others, without a doubt in my mind.
Interesting.
And there's a word for it, but it's more toxic than whatever I can come up with. It's more toxic than that. This is a whole other level.
He was fairly close with Obama, too, wasn't he? Diddy had a good relationship with Obama. Like, he got invited to the White House a number of times when he was when Obama was in power.
Maybe. But that said, a lot of people were invited to the White House when Obama was in power.
Sure. He was having a party all the time, it seemed. Okay, let's go to another one. An arbitrator has awarded Ontario's elementary teachers a raise of nearly 12%. Can I just say, I love how this went down. I love that we've got such strong leadership right now on the education portfolio and on the teacher union front. And I don't say that very often, but here's what happened if you don't remember. The teachers haven't had a new contract in a while. In fact, by the time they finish this current contract, now that we've got this current contract worked out, they're going to have to pay these teachers retroactively to 2022 and 2023. We're in year 3 of their 4-year contract, and it just got settled. How's that possible? That's crazy. But leadership. Let's talk about leadership. The education minister, Stephen Lecce, managed to do what very few other education ministers have done. He's going to be the next premier, by the way. I firmly believe Stephen Lecce, he wants to do it. He's campaigning right now, low-key, quietly, and frankly, he's probably the best person for the job in that cabinet. Apologies, no disrespect to anybody else, but Steve's where it's at. So this guy managed to convince the teacher unions, let's sit down at the table. Let's work out all of the issues except money. And when we work out all those issues, let's just send the money part to binding arbitration. Good on the teacher unions for going for that. I don't even remember who the first union was that did it. It might have been the high school teachers. It might have been the Catholic teachers. I don't remember. But one of the unions said, okay, we'll negotiate binding arbitration when it comes to the salary. And then other school boards did it. That was back in December. It avoided another teacher strike, which nobody wanted, and it probably gave the teachers the best chance at getting the most money. And sure enough, it paid off. The arbitrator just awarded them 12%. Now, it's not a 12% pay increase right away. The 80,000 teachers that are members of ETFO are going to get, for the 2022 school year, retroactively, a pay increase of 2.75%.
Okay.
So you're going to get a check. For 2023, 2.5%. No, it'll be 2.5% for the final 2 years, which are this year and next year. Good. 12% pay increase. That seems reasonable. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Teachers have to be able to afford to live in the area that they teach. We want teachers who live in the community.
And we need good teachers, and good teachers are leaving. Good teachers are plotting to leave if they haven't left already or thinking about it in the next couple of years. They're thinking about it in the next 5 years. We need good teachers to stay. We can't have them leave.
Now they need to clean up a few more things in the education system. Now that we seem to have achieved labor peace with the teacher unions, this is a good deal for everybody. As a taxpayer, I'm not unhappy about this. We should be paying our teachers better than we do. And this worked it out great. There was no strike. There was no people marching up and down sidewalks. It was awesome. Love how it worked out. Great job to everybody involved. Now we got to take care of the ECEs and the youth and child counselor people and the administrators as well. The people who aren't necessarily represented by a union but have just as much stake in the education system. They're not getting paid properly either.
They're not. But what I would also add to that is the reason why they're so stressed out is the lack of help, the lack of resources in the classroom. So it's not just necessarily for them. It's adding bodies to help. There are more people with special needs. Like I hear from my friends who work in the school system, and the problem is they've got these students who have special needs, and in a lot of cases, it's like you're on it. Like it's just you, no other resources. And it's really hard to be able to focus and help every student when you have to focus on a few. And that's something I hear over and over again. So make sure that there's proper resources because every kid in there deserves that, you know?
Agreed. I will say, though, that that's kind of a harder thing to plan for as far as staffing with ECEs or the workers who would help
EAs.
out, the EAs and all that sort of thing, and even funding for that because every year there's more and more kids on the spectrum coming into schools, kids with disabilities coming into schools.
Behavior issues is a humongous one. Violent children is a humongous one.
And whether it's fetal alcohol syndrome or whatever, more and more kids every year. It is an insane amount of kids entering the school system every year that are very, very high needs. I don't know how you plan for it because this isn't something that we dealt with very much in the 90s or even in the early 2000s.
Yes. When I went to school, there were EAs and it was a one-on-one. It was one-on-one. All they needed was one EA for one student, basically.
You know, I think we could solve the problem, though, if we did just come to terms and let's just sit down and work it out once and for all. I think teacher contracts are too short. I don't think teachers should ever start a school year without a current contract. I don't think they should. And it's same thing with the ECEs and with the administrators, too. There's way too many people doing way too many hours and having too many expectations on them for very little money. Why would anyone voluntarily do this job unless it's just for love of the job? And that's fine. I love my job, but I should be paid more. These teachers should be paid more. Kat, you should be paid a lot more. I think that we're all underpaid, and we're just going to have to, especially with the education system, address that head on, work out a good deal, pay them properly, and let's get on with it and start creating some real geniuses in this province. Wouldn't that be helpful?
Sure. But where's the money coming from? We're printing off enough. This is going to be their argument, right?
Well, I mean, it's provincial versus federal. The province, I mean, I think we're running pretty lean. I think we do a pretty good job. We are in debt and we don't have a balanced budget. That's a big, big, big problem. And that falls on, well, ultimately it falls on the premier. But I don't think it's an unsolvable problem. Federally, it's a goddamn disaster. I don't know what's going to happen if interest rates don't come down real quick because the amount of interest that the federal government is paying on the debt, that's next level crazy. But I want to circle back on something that you mentioned, the amount of people who are planning to get out of here. The amount of people who have said, fuck it, not doing it anymore. I'm a good damn teacher and I can go and teach anywhere and probably make more money and have a better quality of life and a better work-life balance. How about a few numbers to back that up?
Let's do it.
New survey from Royal LePage finds 50%, 50, half of people in the GTA would be willing to relocate to somewhere more affordable.
You should.
If they could find a job that would pay the same or work remotely.
That's key, right? I mean, of course, that's key. You need to make sure that you're set wherever you go.
It's an overall 50%, although if you specifically break it down to just people who are renting, it's even higher, 60%. So they gave people that took this survey a bunch of options. Hey, would you be interested in moving to Sarnia? Would you be interested in moving to the Ottawa Valley? And here, there, and everywhere. Thunder Bay was an attractive option because it's one of the most affordable places in Ontario.
Okay, all right.
It's also a long fucking drive.
It's so far up there. It's crazy.
Oh, I moved to Thunder Bay and it's great. Oh shit, I got Taylor Swift tickets. That's going to be a flight to get to Toronto.
It's not for everybody. I think quiet living, end of career, that probably makes sense. That's probably the main people that are going, like toward the end of your career kind of thing, right? Closer to retirement. Does that make sense? 1
in 5 of these people said Alberta. Edmonton specifically.
Edmonton.
Edmonton is cheaper than Calgary. Just yesterday, I was having a DM conversation with someone who is an educator, lives in Etobicoke, and just got back from a trip out to Calgary where she found a place to live. And at the end of June, she's gone.
It's crazy. They used to call Calgary Boomtown.
Yep.
Do they must be booming a little bit more than usual still, though.
They're doing great. I mean, the cost of living there is so much cheaper because their taxes are so much cheaper.
Yes, Alberta. Oh my God. So my that's where my sister-in-law and her husband came from, right? Alberta. Just outside of Edmonton. It's in a lovely little town called St. Albert. And that's their number one complaint. I think if you ask them, holy fuck, the taxes, they kind of forget. They used to live in Ontario, but it's been like a long time.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck, I forget. It's so expensive here. I'm like, yep.
It's crazy.
It's very expensive.
During the pandemic, people were calling it unterrible. And then we kind of came out of it when things started reopening. But then the price of everything started going batshit crazy.
Oh, we're so expensive.
We're back to unterrible status. When half of people in the GTA would, if they had the right circumstance, bail, that's a big, big, big problem. Huge.
Man.
But it's not just Alberta and Thunder Bay and Sarnia that people are moving to. Tens of thousands of Canadians are emigrating from Canada to the United States.
Yep, not surprised.
The number of people packing up and moving south has hit a level not seen in more than a decade, according to data from the CBC. Now, they got their data from the U.S. Census Bureau, who says, get this, the number of people moving from Canada to the United States in 2022, that's the most recent number we have, 126,340 people. Now, that might not seem like a massive number when you consider we've got, almost 17 million people.
We do have a lot of people.
That's a hell of a chunk. That's a statistical relevant number. 126,000 just to the U.S. That doesn't include the people leaving for other provinces. Like, at what point do our leaders...
In Ontario specifically,
in Ontario,
is what I'm thinking, yeah.
Like, if I'm Doug Ford and I hear, what? 126,000 people in 1 year, and it was probably higher in 2023. That was just 2022. When you hear a number like that, you got to ask, what the hell are we doing wrong? And then our federal government, in charge of immigration, not emigration, immigration. They're cranking up that immigration meter. I mean, the amount of people coming in is crazy, so maybe they don't care.
That's why, because money is money. No matter if it comes from someone who comes from another country and moves here, or if it's someone who's born here. They don't give a shit as long as the money keeps coming, and it will. That's the crazy part. Is nothing will be done. Nothing will be done because all they see is that it's staying where they want it to stay. The money, I mean.
It's so concerning. When that many people are trying to get out of a G7 country because it's so bad here, that's got to tell people something. And again, those numbers are from the U.S. Census Bureau.
Yeah.
God only knows if there's more. Those are just the ones that crossed legally. I wonder if any Canadian, they're talking now in Ottawa about granting citizenship to like third generation people who emigrated to Canada and haven't even been here that long, now allowing them to have citizenship and give it to their kids. It's fucked up.
It's fucked up.
It's completely fucked up. We are devaluing Canadian citizenship so bad, and the irony is people who are already here are trying to get out.
On that note, too, you probably have this because it ties into it, the most affordable cities.
What do you got?
So this is a global news. You can look this up on Global News, but they basically asked the same question. Are people going to Quebec City? Are people going to Edmonton? Who's moving where for affordable housing? But they broke down, this is interesting, they broke down the most affordable cities based on mortgage payment as a percentage of your monthly income. Interesting way to do it, right? Thunder Bay is the cheapest by far. It's only 22.2% of your monthly income. People are only spending 22% on average of their own income on their mortgage. And think about how much you spend on what you're bringing in and how much is you're paying for mortgage.
50 or more.
St. John, New Brunswick is second, followed by Red Deer, Alberta, Trois-Rivières, Quebec, Edmonton, Alberta, Regina, Saskatchewan, St. John's, Newfoundland, Quebec City, Sherbrooke, Quebec, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Fredericton, and now we're getting to the 30%, in case you're wondering. So that's about 30%, Winnipeg, Fredericton, Saskatoon, Windsor, Essex, Ontario. The only one in Ontario, well, Thunder Bay, Ontario is far away. Like, let's face it, it's way up north. So I don't know if you can count that.
For those who aren't sure, Southern Ontario to Thunder Bay, it's actually closer to go Southern Ontario to Florida.
Yep, exactly. And then the only other one in Ontario is Windsor, Essex, which is at 36.4%.
Wow.
And then Charlottetown, Gatineau, in case you're wondering, the round out the top 20, I think that is.
See, and I'm still fascinated by these emigration numbers, the people leaving Canada. I've got the top countries that Canadians are going to since 2020. Since 2020, in less than 4 years, 794,000 people have moved to the States. 750,000 moved to America. And way more than half were women. Way more women than men are leaving. The United Kingdom was second. 100,000 people have left Canada to go to the UK. 73,000 have gone to Australia. 30,000 to France. 25,000 to Italy. And 270,000 more to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm. And you can't even blame them.
See, the exodus is on and nobody cares.
It's so funny how like things change so quickly. Because if you would have told me the like numbers like that were high about people leaving and going to other countries, I'd be like, oh, what's their problem? Like, it's great here. And that would have been like pre-COVID. Like right before COVID, I would have said, what are these people doing? It's such a great country to live in. Then shit hit the fan. And then in the last 5 years, that's changed quite a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're a laughing stock around the world. If you watch news media from other countries, like say you sit down and watch the BBC one night, or some of the American networks even, some of the South American networks, not a lot of these networks in other countries have many nice things to say about Canada right now.
Right now.
It's really, really bad.
So, and just because I don't want to be all doom and gloom when it comes to Canada. Obviously, we live here. Obviously, I still have love for the country. But keep in mind, these things do go in waves. Mm-hmm. These things really do. Sure. And it is a matter of who's in power. And it is a matter of how the economy's doing and all those things. Like, let's all hope. But a year, 2 years, 4 years from now, we could be singing a totally different tune about the country of Canada. And we certainly hope that we do. Like, let's hope we get back there. But currently, I understand people not feeling so patriotic about living here.
Yeah, I've never seen that many people trying to get out. Hit me with a good story. Hit me with a fun one, because that one was a little bit of a heavy one. Do you want to talk about the concert that's happening tonight and tomorrow?
Yeah, sure.
It's a weird one.
Okay, so I thought so too when they announced this tour, and it's a small one. From what I know, it's a small one. Smaller venues anyway. Joey Fatone and AJ McLean of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC there are teaming up together for a concert. So it's at OLG Stage tonight, and it's at Caesars, Windsor, tomorrow night. And I don't know what happens here at these.
I'm curious too. What happens at this show?
We were having conversations on our radio show about this. Like, are they playing both? Like, are they playing Backstreet Boys songs and NSYNC songs? Do they cover? Like, are they just covering stuff? Are they allowed? I say allowed, but you know what I mean. Do they have the respect of the other boys in the group, men in the group, to perform these songs? Can AJ openly perform Bye 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 by NSYNC and it's not a probs?
For a Backstreet Boy to sing an NSYNC song.
And do they do the dance if there's only two of them?
Yeah, that'd be weird. There's supposed to be four people waving.
I'm sure maybe they got backup dancers.
Ooh, maybe. Or maybe they don't need them. Maybe this is like, you know what? We're just going to go out and show off our vocal power. Okay.
Do you buy tickets for that? They call it,
I don't know.
By the way, it's called a legendary night.
A legendary night.
Witness an epic collaboration.
Well, in fairness, both of those guys have played to stadiums that were sold out many, many, many times. Dude, they've performed in front of millions of people.
They've seen shit. They know what they're doing. They know how to work the crowd. The crowd loves them. They do, by the way, have like, okay, I'm taking sneak peek. And if you're going to the show tonight and you feel like this is a spoiler, fast forward a little bit. But I'm looking at some footage from a couple months ago when they performed together. Space Cowboy, they performed. Do you even know that song?
No.
It's by NSYNC. It's a very yippee yay. This is a very random song to perform. But they also sang I Want It That Way. They also sang Bye Bye Bye. So the answer is yeah. They still perform the hits of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. You're just getting Fatone and AJ.
Wow.
In very casual clothing in this video. By the way, you know, not that I think we expect them to wear tuxedos, but okay, Joey, interesting choice. Anyway, hey, by all means, if I was in the Falls though, and someone's like, "You want to go?" I'd be like, "Heck, let's do it."
I'd go to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's happening tonight. If you're going to that show, can you let us know how it is and what goes on here? Because I find it there was a time not even that long ago where you had to declare, are you team Backstreet or are you team NSYNC?
Right.
And never would you have traded on your chosen side.
Right. For sure. What I find interesting too is what will happen in the future, because we're hearing a lot of rumblings. Once Justin Timberlake's album didn't do too hot, I think maybe you guys have heard, it didn't do good at all. In fact, I think it was on the Billboard 200 at the bottom for like a week, and then it broke. It got off the 200. Think about that. There's a lot of fucking albums out there, Scott. Mm-hmm. His wasn't even on the top 200 for more than a week.
I find that hard to believe.
Isn't that hard to believe?
I don't.
Britney effect. Was it too long that since he released music last? There's a lot of reasons why this could be the case.
Yeah,
but more and more rumors though do point to him joining NSYNC for a reunion. And but here's the thing: is if they did, the Backstreet Boys would jump on that in a fucking second. Could you imagine that?
If there was a tour, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, it would be massive, and it would be all people in their 30s and older going.
And I'll do you one better: if the Spice Girls joined, I would be fucking front row. I would give up all the things in my house that I'd have to sell to get front row tickets to that.
That's one of those shows where they got to do it like in a park or something, like Lollapalooza, because there's no stadiums big enough to hold it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm watching the clock here. Not a ton of time. So let me get to a few other things. The Blue Jays finally won a sweep of a series. They beat Chicago last. It's a horrible baseball team, but they beat Chicago. So they've won 3 in a row. Good news. Go Blue Jays. Today is the opening round at the RBC Canadian Open. Mm-hmm. Right before COVID hit, I played in the Pro-Am, and it was at Hamilton Golf and Country Club.
Fun.
There's a par 3. I think it's the 14th or 15th hole. I stuck it like 3 inches from the hole. I almost had a hole-in-one at the Canadian Open in the Pro-Am. I really wish they'd invite me back. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it, by the way, if you're listening from the CPGA or the tour.
Shoot your shot, buddy.
University of Toronto. Hey, remember they put in that injunction bid the other day to get rid of the encampment?
Yes.
These people can't do anything right. They put in like 1,000-page application in front of the court to try and clear the encampment on the grounds of the U of T. And they don't even need the courts really for this. It's private property. They should just be able to evict these people. But they're going the court route. And they put a lot of time and effort into creating this big application. The irony is now the court has said it's a substantial amount of paperwork. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to hear the case until June 19th. At the end of convocation festivities.
Yeah.
People start graduating next week. There's going to be grads for 3 straight weeks. And there's going to be protesters there on the campus because they made the application so long that now the judge said, well, the other side's got to have time to review it. You give out this much paper, we got to give them time to go through your application. It's so stupid. Clear out this encampment. And if you're part of the encampment, I mean, you got what you wanted, a shit ton of attention. Move on here and let's try and clear this up. I really would love to think that people who invested 4 years of their time into getting that degree, some of them getting doctorates, some of them getting masters and PhDs, and all the money they spent doing it. I'd love to think that they could have an actual celebration of their achievement without having horrible names hurled at them and seeing people taking a shit on the lawn.
Yeah.
Like,
especially that. Like all those gross stories that we heard. Like, especially that. Come on.
What else can we tell you here? What else can we tell you?
We got to get to a meeting soon, so.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, one more. Do you remember back in the spring, they had a big problem in Niagara region? People were cutting down those speed enforcement cameras, the photo radar.
Oh, right. Yeah. They were not happy about them.
No. Somebody doesn't like photo radar.
Someone does not like it.
So someone vandalized them. And they were all like, oh, that's bad, but we'll fix them up. The person went with a grinder and cut them down. Well,
same person?
It was probably the same person. Yeah. It happened again. For the 3rd time this year and the 2nd time since April, 3 automated speed enforcement cameras throughout Niagara have been vandalized. Someone cut the cameras off the pole. What? Neighbors said they could hear metal being cut and see sparks flying.
Oh my
and
God.
nobody fucking phoned the police.
Nobody called?
The region,
do you call 911 for that? Like, you have to for vandalism like that? You could, of course, do that, right?
I think you probably could, given that it's in the act. So they're trying to figure out who did that. There are 2 high schools today in Kitchener that are closed because of threats of violence. One thing I do want to mention, and this will be the last thing. I was conversing with some friends at Waterloo Regional Police this morning because I wanted to know what's going on. 2 high schools in the same city closed. One of them closed now for a 2nd day in a row because of threats. They got to be taking it seriously if there was threats serious enough that they closed the schools. Well, The calls came in around the same time, 24 hours apart. They were similar in nature and language, so they think these two are connected. The add-on that I'd like to point out from police, Scott, could you please pass on? This is tying up an incredible amount of our resources. We will use the fullest extent of the law to go after the people who did this if it turns out to be a prank. So if you're some little fucker trying to get out of exams.
And if it's not a prank, you're even more fucked, by the way.
Oh, my God.
Either way, you're fucked.
You're done. So if you're using this as an excuse to try and get out of exams or get out of culminating or something like that, probably the dumbest decision you've ever made. You should probably phone in and tell them, hey, it was me, and deal with the repercussions, because it's going to be a lot easier if you go to them instead of them having to come for you. Because if they have to come for you and they find out you phoned in one of these threats that wasn't credible just to try and get out of doing something, you are fucked.
The only way you're not fucked is if you know something and you pass that along as a good citizen. Like, holy shit, I know this person's going to go and shoot up a school. Or, sorry, I know that sounds really bad. But, like I know someone's going to threaten violence today. I'm going to call it in. But even then, go in person. That's okay. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. You're worried about repercussion on I assume, against the other students, that the other students would do against you. They'll protect you.
Yeah. Call it in. Let's figure out who did this, and they're fucked, but maybe you can save yourselves. And also, it's not going to get you out of shit. You're still going to have to write the exam. You're still going to have to do the culminating. You're just kicking the can down the road. Get it over with. I have a feeling this is a prank. I hate that this happened, but I'm glad that it wasn't a violent incident, and hopefully they determined this was not a credible threat. Gotta go, everybody. Have yourselves a good one. We'll catch you right back here tomorrow for the Friday Pod.
Bye, friends.